Superpowers. Abilities of myth and legend that have had a unique tradition, especially in the fictional universes of comic book stories, movies, video games, and literature. Are you a fictional theorist, an unconventional creative, or even simply just an aspiring artist, writer, or content creator? Well, look no further. What's up, nerd and nerdettes? Welcome to 50 Shades of Shay, your superpower super index. I'm Shay, and I'll be detailing, listing, and analyzing powers and abilities known in and out of popular culture for as long as we've had popular culture. So let's get started with fire manipulation. One of the most recognizable abilities in fiction, users of this power can create, shape, and manipulate fire. What is fire, you ask? In its simplest terms, fire is the combustion caused by a physical or chemical change in temperature through the medium of oxygen, meaning that without any oxygen, there can be no fire. And if the temperature isn't high enough for combustion, no flame of any sort can be produced. Needless to say, fire and humans have more than an extended history. So in fact that you can't even think of a time where fire hasn't been involved throughout the course of human events. But what is it about fire that makes it such a staple in every craft, campaign, and culture around the world? Well, let's find out. Since the beginning of time, mankind has always had the will to survive. But this was made more or less difficult due to predators, temperature conditions, and lack of proper tools and equipment. But the tides turned 1.7 to 0.2 million years ago. This is an estimated time, of course, where humans were thought to have learned how to create and harness fire. Where the knowledge came from is up for debate. Mythology speaks of a rebellious titan that stole the secret of the flame and graced us with his knowledge. And religious texts mention a burning bush that not only imparted wisdom, but instilled courage and asserted dominance over those that came in contact. While more humble origins detail blundering cavemen clumsily striking stones together, or even a stray lightning bolt in a dry piece of wood, both instances creating a spark. These stories and coincidences have had more of an impact on society than we know, leading to the creation of social stratification, which is something we now refer to as social hierarchies, meaning those who could make and wield fire had way more power than those who could not, granting them a higher position in society along with additional perks and benefits. The presence of fire also led to an increase in length of daytime and allowed more activity to occur during the night than it was previously possible. This made fire an important factor in expanding and developing societies of early humans, causing the first flame to provide not only protection and warmth, but opening the door and allowing us to take our first steps into the advancement of our species. Being one of the most recognizable and alluded to powers in the history of fiction and popular culture, the flame is portrayed in nearly uncountable ways, but all sharing baseline similarities: the famous teardrop shape. Why is the flame portrayed this way? Well, I'm glad you asked. The shape comes from the pull of gravity, which draws cooler, more dense air downward towards the base of the flame. This, in turn, shifts the hot air, causing it to rise. This convection process feeds fresh oxygen to the flame until it runs out of fuel and burns out. So long story short, the upward flow of air gives fire its infamous teardrop shape, which also explains its flickering. You can see how this concept is applied to larger flames or even infernos. But just like the shape of the flame, the color is also displayed in numerous spectrums. But the widely accepted color for a flame in popular culture is orange. Now, if you grew up stupid like me, you'd be tempted to say red. But if you stick with me, I'll explain exactly why orange is generally a more widely accepted choice than red. You see, most traditional fuel sources for the flame, wood, paper, gas, all contain carbon. Carbon is an element naturally found in all living things, and in some cases, non-living things as well. So, when these objects combust, the orange color comes from the illumination of the carbon particles released from the burning object. Yeah, I know, right? And as the fire cools down and less carbon particles are released, then you get the orangish red or even just red colored crayon that we all chose as kids in kindergarten. The nature of a flame is truly ironic and one of duality. While symbolically it has been used to represent energy and change, illumination, in tandem with destruction, purification, and rebirth, it consumes, oftentimes quickly and uncontrollably, making its harnessing and control, which can create and fuel both life and light, all the more pressing, desirable, and at the same time dangerous. And because of that, users of this power are portrayed as ambitious, hot-headed, ruthless, and passionate, with character designs displaying sharp or pointy edges, a lot of slants or diagonals, as well as bright and vibrant hair colors. Yeah, that's right, the notorious redhead. This oftentimes causes the user to stand out in noticeable ways apart from others, very often intentionally. These characters are the types that are seen and want to be, with very few exceptions. The nature of this power is one of dominance, and usually accompanies high offensive and low defensive capabilities, making the user the stereotypical glass cannon, which metaphorically refers to a flame's ability to burn bright, but if not managed correctly, to die out quickly. Users are often known to have wide range of effect and very high speed, but with these benefits, users of this power make it hard in most cases to be a team player, as not only is there a major friendly fire issue, I swear I wasn't trying to be funny, but their ego and complete confidence in themselves and their abilities make it hard for them to play nice with others. This oftentimes relegates the user to being the role of a lone wolf, or in more positive, instances, a leader. And unless the plot dictates, there will always be a way to manage and limit users to prevent inevitable chaos. But in any form, a character with this power is not only bold, but shares an indomitable will and spirit that won't submit to anything or anyone under the wrong conditions. While those who are too willing and eager to use their abilities double into the pyromaniac territory. I don't think I need to explain what that is.
Soon, my pet. Soon I will feed you the world.
Now, with the power to control fire comes the natural ability to generate and manipulate heat, burn objects, melt objects, and incinerate objects completely, or cause most objects to combust into flame. I mean, this is a given, it comes with the territory. But more advanced users have been portrayed absorbing fire, detecting other outside sources of flame, negating the use of fire in other beings and objects, as well as projecting and solidifying flames for the use of pyrokinetic constructs. The prefix pyro meaning fire, heat, and high temperature, obviously. And that's not all. On the very far end of the spectrum, master class users have been documented in their proficiency using the seemingly simple ability for things such as pyrokinetic regeneration, healing yourself with fire, augmenting their physical forms and fighting style via pyrokinetic combat, rendering themselves indistinguishable from surrounding fire by using pyrokinetic invisibility, along with becoming one with fire via flame mimicry, and using fire to gain insights thanks to pyromancy.
You are strong enough to look into the Lord's light and see his truth for yourself. When we set sail, your daughter must be with us.
Oh, we're not finished. Communicate and transfer information long distances via pyrotic communication. And when long distance messages don't cut it, they can literally shift and transport positions with fire through pyroportation. Heck, they can even propel themselves through the sky with pyrokinetic flight. The possibilities seem endless, and they essentially are. It's a lot of P's in there, aren't there? But with the near endless possibilities that this power possesses, it would make sense that it would have its fair share of negative effects. A main one that most people overlook is that you lack the essential secondary required powers you need to effectively use this ability, such as fire immunity or thermal resistance.
I don't need to cool down.
Without these, you run the risk of burning yourself every time you attempt to get your flame on. And let's not forget about choking on the smoke you produce. No one wants to die of smoke inhalation before you let off a single spark. But just like any sport, job, or action you perform, control, discipline, forethought, and restraint are extremely necessary. Because users of this ability are portrayed to be hot-headed and passionate most of the time, losing control of yourself mentally and physically can have catastrophic consequences. And pure ignorance can limit skill and the strength of the user's limits. Heck, you might even get lucky with everything I mentioned earlier, but you could still be limited to only manipulating pre-existing sources of fire, being unable to produce your own. And last but not least, you need a fuel source, adequate heat, and oxygen. This is where water, ice, and cold come into play. I know you guys were going to ask about that. Not because they are natural opposites, although you could argue that, but because they stop the combustion process by limiting any one of the three things you need to create a flame. And there you have it. Fire manipulation, in a nutshell. An ability that has created life and sparked the advancement of civilization as we know it, since the knowledge of it has been given to us. But let's be honest here. Because of the censorship in the media and popular culture, this power, despite being one of the most useful and lethal ones in fictional history, is rarely portrayed to its fullest capabilities. Of course, seeing someone burned alive would insult the majority of your audience. This is a given. So you adapt and show a softer, more manageable side of fire manipulation. And because we humans have been more or less numbed to the danger, despite the intervention of a baritone bear, growing up alongside of it, we've witnessed its submission, never giving it a second thought. We rarely take it as serious as it is when it's being portrayed. And just like the unfortunate enemies of someone with this power, that proves to be our and their downfall more often than not. And now, with all of that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Fire manipulation has a near infinite number of fictional and real-world application. It has and will always have an effect on the real world, popular culture, and fiction for decades to come. Unfortunately, the fickle nature of the flame makes it difficult to use effectively around others and in limited space. And if conditions aren't met, then this ability can't be used at all. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the Shea scaling system gives this power a searing 8. Extremely useful and powerful, but difficult to manage and control. Thanks for watching. You guys think of any more applications for this power? Jot it down in the comment section. Start a discussion. The index doesn't grow without you. I'll be back with an entirely new ability, analysis, and breakdown pretty soon. Deuces.